side. Oh, hi, Manjuna. Thank you so much for answering. So at least they can hear us. So should we start and then they can use Q&A to make questions?
Yeah, as soon as I enable the chat, I will let you guys know. Okay.
All right, all right. So I think we can start. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. It's always awesome to see how many of you join the webinars because it's so good to see our community grow and participate into these events. And today we have such a special guest here with us, a man who achieved an impressive goal by developing an amazing app in just 3 weeks. It's Tim Harris from Broadcast. Hey, hello, Tim. How are you?
Hey, Alex. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. Really good. It's a rainy day here, so perfect to be inside and chatting about geeky stuff.
Nice, nice. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this webinar, Tim. It's so nice to hear about clients such as you who are able to use our platform and deliver very, very high quality software in very, very little time to your end users. So, Tim, can you please talk a little bit about yourself and about Broadcast, your company?
Yes, sure, of course. Yes, my name's Tim Harris. I'm an Englishman living here in Oslo in Norway. I'm a developer slash entrepreneur and a musician. And I've been working through the years on all sorts of things, but always coming back to music and tech and some combination of the two. And a few years ago, with some good friends here, we decided to actually combine the two and launch our own product, which became Broadcast. And Broadcast is our sort of a new platform for events and venues. We're in the very early stages of our like sort of beta testing and promo exploring, and we're using Oslo as our test bed, which is a very, very lively place for concerts. And yeah, that's a quick overview of what we are and what we do. We use Bag4App, obviously, as our back end. And I'm happy to go into a bit more detail about the challenge that we did, the product that we made. Yeah, and just let me know where to start.
Yeah, right. So I think we should start by telling us uh, about this amazing goal. So you developed your app in just 3 weeks and had hundreds or even thousands of simultaneous users. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So what happened here? We had our core app was already out in the market, and we've been hit by COVID, just like everyone else. The concert industry was decimated overnight. We'd only been going as a startup for about 2 weeks, and we had to pivot during that time and did something else. And round about March this year, the scene opened up again. People could go out, and we relaunched and started with our marketing plans. And there's a festival here in Oslo. It's called Music Fest, and it's a day of music modeled after a similar event in Paris, actually. And the idea is, I think there's 45 different venues. They put up stages. It's all free. It's all great acts playing, and it runs all day. And traditionally, they've had a printed program and a sort of half-made app kind of thing. And we reached out to them and said, "Hey, we could do better," kind of thing. We could make a program or something that's a bit more interactive. Look, we've already got this, and we sat down with them, had a meeting, and I came up with a crazy idea or two, and then they said yes, and which was amazing. But the timescales were incredibly tight, and that's where the 3 to 4 week window that we had, where we had to go from working out how this was going to happen to actually the day of the event. And long story short, it went very, very well. And we solved this by building a mini app within our app, which has now, in fact, today we launched in the App Store our new festivals guide feature based on all the concepts and everything we learned then. But that was the core challenge, if you like. And as you can imagine, there's quite a few different problems to solve along the way, and some different approaches from a technological point of view.
Oh, I'm sure there are a lot of learning in this process. But can you elaborate a little bit on the technologies that you use to create your app?
Yeah, sure. So the main app we use React Native and Expo to power it. Expo has come on in leaps and bounds. It's a joy to work with, and helps you get things done really, really, really fast. I think when I looked at it a few years ago, it wasn't quite the same, but now it's great. And having that process, that already in place, stood us in good stead. We had recently migrated from our previous backend. We were actually using Appcelerator. I don't know if you remember or know of them, but they shut down their service, and we moved around, looked for a different one to choose, and eventually settled on Back4App for our sort of database features. I'd actually had some experience with Pass as well from some years ago, around the first time it was out, so that was a good fit. And then we also have, we use some services that are hosted at Vercel, because we have Next.js running our website, which is more of a sneak peek into what's in the app. It's a schedule, and it runs some of our own custom APIs to help us do some trickery on behind the scenes, and obviously said some of the secrets of what we're doing. So that's the basic structure. And if you want to visualize what it is we were actually doing, I can show. It's something like, I don't know if you can see my screen. There's
Nice.
There's an app. So up the top here, you would click on, say, this one, and this is one that's just launched. I don't know how well you can see that. And then there is all the content loaded in through videos, all sorts of stuff. And then it's the usual thing like multi-tabbed application, notifications that are sandboxed just to that app within our own app, local reminders, and all of it working pretty much in real time as well. We're still able to update and make changes and make sure that they get through to the actual app. So it was all done. Basically, there was a lot of JavaScript going on, I think. Come to that conclusion.
Yeah, React Native has become immensely popular in Back4App. We have so many users using it, and everyone is reporting very good experience with that, which I think is really nice, because it's another option for people who don't want to stick to a native programming language, such as Swift or Java for Android. And it solves so many problems and accelerates development by quite a lot, because it develops only once and can hit both platforms. I like myself React Native quite a lot, but I have to confess I'm more a Flutter guy.
Well, it's a good job there's an ocean or two between us then.
Yeah.
No, I looked the same. It was like, shall I look at Flutter or shall I look at React Native? And just because we have a backend system which is used by venues as well, and so we started this process of it's just me as a developer here. So I'm looking at having a mono repo and building it all out so we can do our backend systems, the things the venues use, our websites, and split into. It was more of a convenience, one just to keep my head in one place, just one thing to learn rather than a ton of different ones. It gets a bit confusing.
It makes total sense. Yeah. It makes total sense.
Oh.
And Tim, tell us a little bit about the experience during the event. Like, I know your server had to scale up and down to serve all your end users. And how was the upscaling process to you and to your end users? Was it transparent? Did it happen without any gasps or any noticeable delays? Did your app kept working seamlessly to your end users without any other issues?
Yeah, it's a good, obviously a good point. I think also a little bit of context helps for the circumstance here with something like a music festival of this nature. The idea of concurrent users is a bit more than you would normally get on some apps, because there's always that thing of people just using it as they go along, getting notifications, just general usage. But here we had a lot of people gathered in a specific place, and then they were then, when one band finished, the natural thing was to look at the app, find out what's going on next, and that was our biggest concern. It would be terrible for us for it to fall down at that point when people really needed us, and we had a lot of people, obviously, who we were keen to show that we could do this and do it well. So actually, as it happened, we reached out to you guys at Back for App into the support team and said, we've got this thing coming up. Is how many concurrent connections can we get? And I believe it was George who reached back and answered my question and just said, hey, if you want to chat, just let us know. So actually, we spent some time working with a few messages back and forth to find the best strategy for really dealing with that kind of use case, because we were very, very nervous. The end result, we settled on, like, I guess, a combination of three things. We looked to optimize the code of the actual app itself, how it was receiving and processing the data, and what could be done to cache anything locally. Then we looked at our sort of caching our API queries themselves, and doing some work to just tidy up the code, every little bit of tidied up and access every little thing that wasn't necessary, just to help with the payload and the performance. And then we actually upgraded our plan to make sure that we were on a better platform that we knew could cope with the increased load if we get that crazy spike. And yeah, so that was the strategy. And we even did some load testing to see what would happen if we took it down. So we used a service called Roadster, which I hadn't used before. We rented a whole load of bots and just told them to go and hit our API and wait for it to fall down, which it did eventually. And then we shored things up and got it to a point where we felt confident that we could go into the actual event itself and see what would happen.
That sounds great. And it's amazing because you took all the right steps, because I help a lot of people trying to build high volume apps during my days working here. And many of them try to focus on the code, but they never actually load test it with some tool to ensure the application is efficient enough to handle so many users at the same time. I had a client just today that was having a query and retrieving all the columns for the class, which makes the payload much bigger than it needed to be, and it of course affects performance. But when you fine tune like you did, and you stress test, you load test your app to ensure, chances are you can get a very responsive app. But nevertheless, here in Backdrop, I'm sure you know this, but I want to tell to our audience, we can scale up both horizontally and vertically until we meet your needs. So in any case that you need a high throughput inside our servers, we can scale up as much as needed. Of course, there is a price involved in this kind of operation, but we can handle it. So, Tim, last question before you open for our audience is for someone trying to build a high volume app like you did, what are the hits and advices you can give them?
Okay, yes. Well, I think definitely the first one is what we've just both talked about, is you've got to really look at the code. That thing of having beautiful code and blah blah blah, and when you're in a rush to get something out, you cut corners. It's a reality of the day. It happens, but there does come to a point where you have to sit there, you have to tidy things up and think, is this done in the most optimal way? And think what the user experience is going to be, and then think how you can break up the perception of that user experience. Maybe, for example, we load all the events and say the title and a link to a small thumbnail and blah 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 blah, and use that. So when we go into a detail page, it loads really really fast, and in the background we are fetching out the rest of the information. So it's splitting that up and giving a much snappier feel. And we also find that first time someone's like launching, you've got a little bit of leeway, so like take a little bit longer, because they're there for the first time. And then once they're in and they get a nicer, snappier experience, then I think people are prepared to wait a little bit. So that's one thing, is definitely go through the code and make sure, all those extra comments and bits and pieces, that functions that you don't use anymore, strip them out. And then, yes, the load testing, it's the same as testing using code is one thing, but actually doing proper tests on things. So when we were doing our load balancing test, we were watching the reports, and at the same time, we were sitting there with multiple copies of the app, just refresh, and trying to use it and seeing how the performance was. Because then we actually knew what the experience was like. And that gives you confidence when you're trying to then promote it to other people. Say, hey, come check this out. So that, and then, people sometimes seem to also want to cut corners on the hosting costs and stuff like that. There is a time to pay for scaling, and do it when you know you're going to, need it and you can rely on it. So having all the different factors, that really, really, really can help.
Those are amazing tips. Thanks for that. But one that you said really called my attention, because this is really, really important. You said on the first load, it takes a little bit more time. And this information, for those of you trying to build an app like Tim did, this is very, very important, because on the very first usage, the user has no previous experience. If your app it's used and they are using for the first time, so they don't know what to expect about it. So if it takes a little bit more time to load, they won't even notice. But from the second time on, they are expecting some speed. So they saw the app before, they know how it behaves. So if it's laggy from that second moment on, they will notice. But on the first time, they won't. So if you can load and cache as much as you possibly can in the first load, and then on the next loads, use that cached information whenever possible, it translates in a much better experience to your end users, and they will think your app is really, really fast. So that's a very, very good tip that Tim gave us. So thank you so much for that, Tim. Now, I think we can open for questions. What do you think, Tim?
Yes, happy to. Yep, do it.
All right, I see. We have one from Matias Checala. I hope I spelled your name right. I'm Brazilian, so I have a really difficult time trying to spelling names from other parts of the world. So, can you write the name of the bot platform?
I will just find the URL now. It's here we go. Loadstar. 1 second. Just make sure I get the right one.
All right.
Yeah, and this service was actually very, very valuable. I've just put that in the chat. It was called Loadstar. They have a free trial. They call it fuel. You fuel up your account with bots, and I think we got a bundle of free ones and used that to see how it was. And then we were sold we could just buy what we needed, and away we went. Very good.
Nice, thanks for that, Tim. I myself use a piece of software called Artillery. Let me type that here on the chat. Artillery. Spell like this. and it's free to use, but you have to own your own infrastructure in order to use it. So every time I need to load test in Back4App, we use our own infrastructure from other data centers, and we use artillery to hit our apps. But once again, it's free to use, but on the other side, you have to own your own infrastructure to run it. So, oh, Charles just repeated your message. So do you have any other questions, perhaps on Q&A? Robert Noel, could you discuss your software development process starting with design? What's your front-end architecture? What tooling did you use for designing? And how did these tools integrate with Back4App?
Yeah, sure. So it's rather, I don't know if this is a conventional way of doing things. When I used to work with an agency, running an agency, we would often design stuff out and make mock-ups and get them approved and talk about it and then build it piece by piece. We just build it. Where everything's like when we're using Expo, for example, it's very fast to be able to build a UI in the simulator and see how something is going to look. So the kind of that step of, okay, what do we need? We need this element, bring in this element, and build these building blocks and get the core functionality working, and then finesse the UI more after. We had a kind of a brand and a style we wanted to follow, and we also keep things very minimalist so that we can rebrand it effectively for our smaller sort of the festival apps and other projects. I mean, in terms of tooling, it all quite straightforward. Expo helps with the majority of the app-related side of things. We use Next.js for the web side of things and for spinning up little APIs or serverless functions that we need. And again, that's a dream to use. And when it comes to Back4App, we had a data structure and just build that manually, and away we go. I mean, all three things have in common. It's good documentation, nice developer experience, really ready to get up and running quickly.
Nice, thanks. And Tim, did a designer design your software, or did you do it yourself?
Oh, it's all done. It's actually done by me. We are three in our company, and I'm the geek locked in the cupboard, trying to fix everything. So we're a small startup, and we can only we have to do it ourselves. It's been a busy few months. Let's say that.
I'm sure it was, but congratulations! I think your software is really beautiful in the interface.
Thanks.
You can work as a designer as well. So another question from Maciej Czekala. Once again, sorry if I'm spelling it wrong. What was the peak request per second, and was there any slowdown from the API side?
Oh, actually, I don't know what the peak was, but that's an interesting point, which is something I talked about earlier. What we expected was to have these peaks as people watch different bands and would then check to see what was next. But what actually happened was about 9 o'clock in the morning, the server just went up, the requests went up, and then they just plateaued and stayed there all day. And we could see, I had some logs, which had a log drain set up on Vercel. And from that, I could see we had about 100,000 server requests during the course of the actual festival, of that about 12-ish hours. And then a lot of people were not only using the festival part of the app, but they were spending a lot of time exploring the other parts of the app and finding other events to go and see afterwards, which was one of our goals. So actually, I just trying to log into the panel, so I don't know what the max requests were per second, but we were ready to take up to 20,000. So in a 5-minute period, so you can do the math to work out what that was backwards.
All right, and was there any slowdown from the API side?
No, the performance was spot on, and that's what we got with the load testing. We had a couple. We actually found one thing we did. We used a custom domain with Back4App, and that helped us to in our optimization process. As the day sort of picked up, we found a couple of API calls that were still pinging the sort of more generic Back4App domain, and they were running a little bit slow, but they weren't the core service, and we were able to quickly identify them and push them and change them. So there was no, to the end users, it was just nice, snappy all the way through.
Oh, thanks. Oh, do we have any other questions? Let me check here on the Q&A. No any open on the Q&A. Or is the chat? I just closed my chat accidentally. Oh, Robert said, thanks for sharing. All right. No other questions from our audience? I don't think so. So
hopefully they've all got out to see some concerts or something.
All right. So, Tim, is there anything else that you want to add?
Oh, no, I think something we talked about a few times in the past. The other thing that was quite beneficial for this whole process for myself was having a support team that we could sort of talk to and speak to real people and have some feedback. That made the whole process a lot less stressful. We felt like someone had our back, kind of thing. We weren't doing this on our own. So that was another part of the invaluable thing. So when looking for companies, that's a good way to evaluate them.
Oh, thanks for that, Tim. I really appreciate when we see clients such as you that have a good experience using Back4App and are able to bring your businesses and work together to find a solution to real world problems. It's really, really good to see and to participate into this kind of activity in everyone's life. So thank you so much. Alison, do you have any questions for Tim?
No, I would like to just say thank you for joining us today and share your experience. It was like a great conversation, and count on us for anything you want. You need.
Great. I'll be on the phone.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I hope to see your software running here in Brazil, Tim. So if you have the chance for any Brazilian music festivals, please deploy your software to the Brazilian app stores.
It's on the roadmap. It's on the roadmap.
Thank you so much, Tim. So any last minute questions from our audience? If not, I think we can finish for today. No, I think they are okay with those questions. Tim, thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure to have you here in Back4App as a customer, as a friend, and as a developer partner as well. Thank you for sharing your experience. It was awesome, and I'm sure it will inspire a lot of our developers. Alison, are you putting this on YouTube?
Yeah, we are live on YouTube, so you
nice.
guys
Okay.
you guys can see the recordings after we finish here on our YouTube channel. So if you guys haven't subscribed yet, this is the time. So yeah.
Yeah, we have daily videos on YouTube. Every single day we put a new video answering questions, showing how to use our platform. We are the most active on YouTube platform for hosting your app. So be sure to subscribe because we have content every single day. And once again, Tim, thank you so much for joining. Do you want to? We are going to
just say thanks.
Yeah.
Just to say thanks for having us on here. It's been nice to talk about it, and I know that like a few years back I would have liked to hear someone going, oh, you can do this, things, an idea can turn into reality quite quickly. So thanks for helping us make it a reality.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Gus. Thank you, Alison. Thank you for our attendees and our audience. It was awesome, and I hope to see you all back soon on our next webinar. Have a great day, Tim. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Thank you
Right.
guys. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.